everybody. Welcome to the Jerich Show.
Welcome to the Jerich Show, featuring your hosts Javvad Malik and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
I can already tell this is going to be one of those days. I tried to do the welcome to the Jerich Show, and I was going to hit go live immediately. But yeah, this is where, if there was a producer in a studio somewhere, they would be screaming and get graphic on screen 3. Anyway, they want someone's head to roll on a platter. What better head to roll than Eric Krohn? How you doing, sir?
Yeah, it's another bright, beautiful day, and well done with that intro. So smooth, you look like a professional. We've only done like 90 something of these episodes, and you're finally getting to the point that nearly okay.
Is it? Am I just above average now?
Yeah. Well, I think in all fairness, we've changed up the graphics a little bit on you, and did the intro screen that's labeled outro, which kind of threw you. I get it, but it is midday where you're at there in London, so excuses are kind of limited.
Yeah. You know what? I got to say, with all the improvements, this is in the top 3 of my favorite podcasts, hosted by 2 middle-aged men from opposite sides of the Atlantic, talking about security in a poorly presented manner.
There are 3 of those out there.
There must be. There must be. Can't be the top one. Anyway,
oh goodness.
Hack off. No, that's the wrong story. Here's the right story. Federal Emergency Management Agency, Washington. What are they saying? They warn. Oh my God, these screens. Warns emergency alert systems could be hacked, I tell you, to transmit fake messages unless software is updated. Is there like an update now button on the emergency notification system, or is it something more convoluted?
I think what this is, a lot of it is distributed. It's not just like one thing that FEMA runs, but FEMA is warning all of these other places that there's some pretty serious vulnerabilities in a lot of your stuff. You should probably get around to patching. Gee, I don't know. Have we ever heard that sort of thing before? But what's key to this is so many of these things they're tied together, right? So with a couple of clicks and a few keystrokes, it goes out to everything from text messages to the TV thing to even those roadside signs that are there for construction in some places, or those overheads. Those are all kind of tied together in this stuff. So they hit a button and voila, it spreads everywhere. The problem with this is if they have vulnerable systems out there, I mean, it may seem like, oh, whatever, they say there's, I don't know, like in Hawaii, an incoming missile problem, right?
Yeah,
that's scary, but does that really hurt anything? Well, the answer is yeah. And if we look,
absolutely.
Do you remember when Barack Obama was in the White House, the AP, the Associated Press, had their Twitter account taken over, and they tweeted that there was an explosion in the White House, and the stock market actually took a huge dip for a few minutes while they figured out that wasn't really true, right? This kind of stuff in an official capacity could be really damaging to people too. I mean, people are going to freak out. When it happened to Hawaii, as we mentioned, there were traffic jams from honestly people like congregating under overpasses for safety, right? Because it said there's a ballistic missile inbound. So there were all of these repercussions. The phone system was pretty much taken offline. It was a DDoS attack through somebody who accidentally said, no, this is real. This is not a drill. Even after saying it was a drill, and it just went stupid like that.
Yeah. I like the second paragraph here saying a cybersecurity researcher provided FEMA with compelling evidence and certain unpatched were vulnerable. And I think that's such a rookie mistake to release it to the press a week before Black Hat. Go to Black Hat, talk outfit, drag it out for like 55 minutes on like how you were able to ninja your way in and send a fake text alert message and what have you. But speaking of Hawaii, that the interesting one there is that there were certain websites. There's one website that is not family friendly, so we won't mention it here. But I'm sure you're laughing because you recognize even half the logo that you can see at the top half of the screen. But they showed that when the missile alert came in, look at that drop in traffic. It was like minus 77%. The other 23% will probably had their headphones in and they weren't aware of the fact that the alert had gone out, or they didn't care, which is like bravo.
Right.
And then when it was found out it was a fake, then there was this sudden wave of relief, like, oh, thank goodness we're safe. And but to your point, this isn't just the internet. This could be, you could say this was the stock market when a fake thing went out. This could be the share price of certain companies. This could be the price of Bitcoin. Who knows? And if you know these things in advance, and if you can manipulate the markets in those ways, you can make a lot of money.
Yeah. And you know what? The other thing that happens, though, when things like this happen is when there are these errors, mistakes, even if it was a vulnerability that allowed somebody to do a fake one, this really erodes the consumer confidence or the citizen confidence in these systems. So then if something real is about to happen, they're going, oh, it's probably just another one of those fakes. And I mean, that could have real consequences. It really could.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, you're all dealing in the public trust in this case. And as soon as you start erode the trust, especially when it's between a government department and the public, then, things really turn south really quickly. I mean,
it's unfortunate to see just in the public space how many systems we see that have challenges with staying up with patches, right? From from the critical infrastructure pieces and those sorts of things to these sorts of alerting mechanisms. And we all know that patching is not a fun thing. Any of us that have been in IT or whatever for a while, we know that there's the possibility of outages and stuff. But by now, these places should have good, mature processes in place for doing patching, where you can roll back if something happens. I mean, there's no excuse anymore to not be patching these kinds of systems.
Well, someone once gave a really good tip. He goes, when you go camping, if you never, and I've never been camping because I'm not poor, but for people that go camping, they say you go to the store and they'll show you all these tents and tent for two people. And they'll try to sell you the expensive one or what have you. And it's really easy. It folds up and what have you. And he goes like, always think to yourself, how will I feel putting this up or folding it down in the rain when it's blowing wind and it's dark? Because that's pretty much what the weather is like here in the UK most of the year. He goes like, it's really different when you're in the comfort of a shop buying that tent versus when you're actually out, it's raining, cold, your partner's complaining, your kids are complaining, whatever, your dog's not happy, and you're trying to set this thing up or you're trying to fold it out. And so always go for the simplest thing. And this is one thing we see with government departments or whatever. When you go for the cheapest option, you're going for convenience at the point of purchase. But what you should really ask yourself is that if there's a critical vulnerability on this system at 11 p.m. on a Friday, how easy will it be for me to patch this? And if the answer is it's not easy, then I'd say don't go ahead with that, or change your architecture some way, or have other mechanisms in place. Because just to say patch is, and it's difficult, is sometimes too late in the game. These are things you should be thinking about. You need to be thinking about early on.
Yeah. And like I said, we've had plenty of time to get this straightened out these days. This is not a new problem. This has been around since the dawn of the internet, essentially, and internet connected computers.
Speaking of the dawn of the internet and problems that have been around since then, 87% of ransomware found on the dark web has been delivered via malicious macros.
Now, are you referring to the ransomware as something that's been around since the dawn of time, or the macro part?
The macros.
Okay. Okay, that I could agree with. Maybe, yeah.
So this is based on some research done by Verify, and they looked into some ransomware spread, and it's spread by macros. So there's nothing new there. There's some for those of you watching in color TV at home, you can read some of the key bullet points on things. If you're listening via the audio podcast, then I'm not going to read all of them out for you. But it just goes to show that I think the tools and methods that criminals use to break into organizations hasn't really evolved all that much. As much as we like to talk about APTs and advanced, they are persistent, absolutely. Are they necessarily advanced? I don't think so. I don't believe it is. There's very, very little evidence to suggest otherwise. I mean, you've got things like Stuxnet that you could say, yes, that was legitimately a custom-made bit of malware that was specifically targeted towards a particular facility or industry. You could talk about the NSA group, and yes, that's advanced because it bypasses a lot of the, uses a lot of 0 days that aren't known. But for by and large, the 99% out there's nothing new. It's macros, it's spear phishing, it's guessing someone's password. It's look, there's an unpacked system out there that we can just gain shell on. That's literally what makes up the majority. Sorry, I'm ranting a bit here. I'm a bit miserable today, and I'm saying it as it is. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I agree with you on a part of that, and that is the initial attack vector hasn't changed, and it's low tech, and it's been going on forever. But once they're in the systems, the tools that they have and the tools they use are actually pretty serious in a lot of cases. They lay low, they're quiet, they do a lot of things that are very advanced, as opposed to the initial attack vector, which is true. It's the basics. And what I find interesting about this is we're talking about macros being a key way of ransomware spreading. And just a few weeks ago, we mentioned how Microsoft backtracked on their decision not to disable macros by default in like Word and the Office suite. They backtracked on that. So it's interesting to me to see that Microsoft said, oh, no, we're not going to do that now. Yet here comes a study that says this is really a dangerous thing that's going on out there. So I find that interesting from that standpoint. But you're absolutely right. It's the same old when it comes to initial attack vectors. I mean, Office macros have been around since forever and ever ago, and obviously still pretty effective.
Absolutely, unlike Eric. So, hack off
You
US.
are really grouchy today, aren't you?
Nomad leads to $190 million in bridge attack. Which bridge was attacked? How did they lose that much money? Enlighten us, Mr. Crone, because I believe you picked this story, and if I do a search for your name, would it show up in the story?
It might show up in this little story on SC. Yes, it might. What was interesting about this is, so this was, as we follow up our little story about the FEMA stuff, this was caused by a patch. And apparently the patch initialized something there that basically allowed transactions to be auto-proven. So all the attackers had to do then, they figured this out, is basically copy and paste a previous entry and change the wallet address to their own. And what it did is it transferred cryptocurrency. Now, Nomad was a bridge. And what this means is it's where you can exchange, say, Ethereum for Bitcoin, for Dogecoin, or whatever. Okay. So it's not like hitting the blockchain for each of those. It's a bridge between them.
It's like a currency converter in traditional sense.
Essentially, yeah. Essentially, it's you go to the desk in the airport and you trade your funny pounds money for the good US stuff. And
It's funny though, in those days, no matter which currency you get, you always get less of the other currency in return.
Yeah. Well, that's not what happened here. I'll tell you that. Now, the numbers have varied on this from 150 to 190, and it could just be the time of day with the way cryptocurrency runs. But ultimately, a lot of it is still sitting in wallets that we can see. I think about 50 or 60 million was actually thrown through some of these mixers, which are a laundering thing here. They basically take and break a bunch of stuff down into tiny little pieces and toss out the pieces to other wallets. So it makes it very, very difficult to try to track where these funds are going, and especially on mixers that have a lot of people using them at one time.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's like
but
money
yeah, I mean,
laundering, but for mixers are like money launderers for cryptocurrency. Is that right?
that's exactly what they are. So, they have a pool of these, say, a Bitcoins that are broken down into small little pieces because you can shave them down to nothing. And you put your Bitcoin in there, and other Bitcoin that's already been in there comes out the other side. They can change times for that. So it's not like an in and out sort of thing where you can track this wallet dumped this much and now it went here. It does it over time and in different areas. It's a very advanced and interesting thing that's going on out there. And of course, there's a small fee.
I am still quite confused about this because the whole thing is based on the blockchain, which should be a permanent ledger of every activity that's there. So it's not like traditional money laundering where everything ends up going into a casino, a dry cleaner shop, or some other cash business, where because that's the objective of money laundering. You need to filter it so it looks like cash, or it can be taken out as cash at the end of the day. I'm just struggling to understand how I can understand they make it complicated.
Yeah.
But just because something's difficult, I don't think it's impossible.
And I think what happens is you end up getting bits of cryptocurrency that aren't what you put in there. It's not like just breaking it down into pieces. It's mixed in with all this other kind of stuff. So you can't tell what's actually legit and what's not because it's broken down and just kind of dumped and mixed. It's a very interesting thing. And frankly, I've had a hard time coming up with a legitimate reason for these things. Right. So if anyone has an idea of how it could be legitimate, I'd love to hear it. It's kind of like cryptocurrency in and of itself, other than an investment platform and a way to steal money from people. What good is it?
Absolutely nothing. Well, I mean,
Right.
actually, that's kind of like the fundamental discussion around cryptocurrency from the beginning, isn't it? People asking what is the legitimate or the good use for it, and not many people have really put up a convincing argument, other than,
Nope.
hey, Big Brother wants to track you anyway, so let's use this as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at how much energy is put into generating these cryptocurrencies, I mean, how much power it takes to run these cryptocurrency farms where they're generating bitcoins every once in a while. I mean, talk about a huge strain on areas where this stuff happens with the heating, with the actual power to run the GPUs. Frankly, I am not a big fan of crypto. I mean, as you know, I had like $20 in crypto. It's worth about $1.40 last time I looked. It was given to
I
me.
think that's pretty much everyone, except
Yeah.
it varies from anywhere between $20 to like 2 million, whatever. But everyone's worth like hardly anything now. But don't worry, it'll bounce back. It'll bounce back.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little rant.
Final story. It's a kind of a funny story. So there's an ex-T-Mobile store owner, and who raked in $25 million from unlocking phones. And you must be thinking, wow, that's an awful lot of phones to unlock. How much were they charging per phone unlock? But this guy, he used to work for a T-Mobile store. But then his contract ended because in 2017 because he was like doing some unauthorized phone unlocks, which I think is kind of like a tough deal because, like, who doesn't like their phone to be unlocked? I mean, why should I have it locked down to one carrier, but that's regardless. Anyway, T-Mobile ended his contract. So then he went all John Wick and social engineered some T-Mobile call center workers and sent a whole bunch of spear phishing emails, gathered around 50 legitimate credentials for. Oh, hold on, I'm doing a podcast, Jan. I'll speak to you later. Sorry, my little one just popped in the room. So no, don't do that. It's all right. I'll have coffee, please. Thank you. Be nice to him. Oh, my older daughter's now like telling him off for interrupting my podcast.
You're just making it worse.
Like, what are you doing? Why are you disturbing Dad? And I'm like, no, chill out. And he's like, I just
Timely
wanted to know whether
topics.
you wanted tea or coffee.
Poorly presented.
Yes.
Yeah. You need one of those on-air signs, man. Come on.
You know, that's what they say. But the thing is, I'm in so many like Zoom calls or video meetings throughout the day. It will just be permanently up there and it would lose all meaning after a while.
Can we focus? T-Mobile unlocking phones, phished a bunch of people.
Yeah, so
got
the
their
email
credentials.
like legitimate T-Mobile things. He raked about 50 IDs and he used them to get into the systems. And then he was unlocking phones like a boss. He set up like some websites like Swift Unlock and what have you. And basically, I think it was his main clientele were probably thieves because they would like steal phone and whatever, and then it's been barred from the network, it's been like locked and everything, and he'd be like, no problem, click, 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 here you go, it's all working and all legit and all fine now. So he racked in 25 million over the course of the few years he was operating. So it's kind of a scary sort of, now that's a persistent threat. And again, it goes down to it. What was his way in? It was good old social engineering. He either spearphished them or he sent them an email. But he was persistent. He kept on going. And it's amazing how the company didn't even realize that someone else was logging onto their accounts from a different location, or 50 people were suddenly logging on from this one, basement in Chinatown or something. I don't know, wherever. But it's an interesting story, and
I'm shocked. I'm shocked by the money involved here, honestly. For a simple network unlock, okay, we're not talking about doing like what is it? The iPhone unlocks with the iCloud, right? I mean, when things are locked to iCloud, they're locked to iCloud. Same with the Androids, where you have to end up putting in a previous email address that was used for it in order to unlock it. A lot of people buy used phones and find that they can't use it. And this looks like it's simply a matter of unlocking from other networks. So you can use a phone on other networks, which, I mean, the number involved here is a bit staggering. We know that telcos, especially cellular ones, are under attack all the time. Because what they do is they use those to get the MFA keys. So you take over something, you do a SIM swap and get MFA keys for cryptocurrency, and you rob them for $1.5 billion of Bitcoin or something crazy like that, right? There's value there. I just thought this was pretty interesting, that it was a much more limited scope.
Yeah. It just goes to show that there's money to be made, legitimately or illegitimately. I mean, if he'd gone through like a proper contract and offered services, who knows what could have happened? Or he could just become a crypto trader because they're all making money, aren't they?
Right, exactly. Something like that. Anyway, so, whoa, Javvad went away. That's kind of nice. For those of us listening, I will be in Black Hat next week. Javvad has decided to stay on his side of the pond, but if you're around, reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever. We can meet up. There's a Hacker One party, I think Tuesday night, that KnowBe4 is co-sponsoring. I'd love to meet some of the people there and see some of the folks that watch the show. So having said that, have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much. And I will see you hopefully next week from Black Hat.